Delilah chanted a few words, and in no time, wads of cash flowed out of Peter's mouth. When the flow stopped, Delilah sighed. "You have served your purpose, Peter." With a cold, detached demeanor, she picked up Peter as she dropped him into the pot. A puff of Whenever she passed by, people would stop and stare.
Now wow, which kind sissy be this? Fine finish, can't get money join. Ha! She go too sweet.
Emeka said to Damien as she stepped down from her car and walked around the vast empty land with the land surveyor. Her name is Delilah Olushola. Before I dive into the main story, please consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel for more interesting stories. Now grab your popcorn as we dive into an extremely intriguing story. Delilah was an extremely beautiful and wealthy woman who lives in a big city, but one day she walked into the serene village of Agemo, bought a huge piece of land, and within 6 months built the biggest house in the entire village. Her wealth was legendary and her beauty was unmatched. The people of Agemo wondered, who is this woman? Why would she want to stay in the village despite being so wealthy? Many thought she was a widow because no one had ever seen her husband and she always wore white mourning clothes. But unknown to everyone, her husband, whom everyone thought had died, was locked inside a bottle and kept in a secret room in her house. Any man she sleeps with, she locks his essence inside a bottle and brings it out only when she needs money. The moment the man stopped producing money, she removed him from the bottle and threw him into a pot. Delilah's house was magnificent. It stood tall with gleaming white walls surrounded by lush green gardens. Inside, the floors were made of marble and the rooms were filled with expensive furniture. But the most secret room was hidden behind the bookcase in her study. The curious villagers often whispered about Delilah. Children dared each other to sneak close to her mansion, while the adults speculated about her wealth and mysterious life. Delilah, however, remained kind and generous, often helping the needy and sharing her riches with the villagers. One evening, as Delilah sat in her luxurious living room, the full moon casting a silver glow through the windows, she felt a strange chill as the wind blew and the bottles in the secret room rattled slightly. She knew she had to act. She walked to the secret room, her heels clicking on the marble floor. She carefully selected a bottle and brought it to the center of the room. Inside the bottle was a man named Peter. He was the last man she slept with. His eyes widened in fear as she opened the bottle, and he was released, growing to his normal size. Delilah chanted a few words, and in no time, wads of cash flowed out of Peter's mouth. When the flow stopped, Delilah sighed. "You have served your purpose, Peter." With a cold, detached demeanor, she picked up Peter and walked to a large pot at the corner of the room. As she dropped him into the pot, a puff of smoke filled the air, and Peter vanished. Delilah then returned the empty bottle to its place on the shelf. The next morning, the villagers of Agemo woke up to the sound of cries and shouts coming from Mr. Peter Olumuyiwa's house. Peter has passed on. He died in his sleep. The news spread quickly. The villagers rushed to his house to console his wife, Mrs. Olumuyiwa, who was in tears. Mr. Peter was a site contractor, well known and well liked in the village. He had been working on Delilah's house. During that time, he got carried away by her beauty and slept with her. From that day, his life had gone downhill. Things had not been going well for him, and now he eventually passed away. When Delilah heard of Peter's demise, she paid a condolence visit to the family. She dressed in her usual white clothes and walked to Peter's house. The villagers watched her with a mix of curiosity and respect. Mrs. Olumuyiwa was surprised to see Delilah at her door. "I'm sorry for your loss," Delilah said, her voice smooth and comforting. "Please, let me help. I'll pay for all the burial expenses." Mrs. Olumuyiwa was overwhelmed with gratitude. She and her family all prostrated to thank Delilah.
Thank you, ma. Thank you so much. My God will bless you. God will bless you. Shema. Thank you.
she said, tears streaming down her face.
We are so grateful, ma.
If only they knew who Delilah really was. Mr. Aremu, a resident of Agemo, had always had eyes on Delilah. Even though he had a beautiful wife and 3 children, he just couldn't take his eyes off Delilah. Her well-rounded backside drove him crazy every time she passed by. On the day of Peter's funeral, while everyone was headed back home, Aremu followed Delilah. She noticed him trailing behind and eventually stopped. When she gave him listening ears, he started expressing his feelings to her.
I can't stop thinking about you, Delilah. You are like a dream come true.
He confessed. Delilah smiled mysteriously, and after their long talk, they exchanged phone numbers. A few days later, Aremu visited Delilah in her mansion. The grand house was more impressive than he had imagined. They ate, drank, and danced, and then one thing led to another. He slept with her. As Aremu lay fast asleep, satisfied after their passionate night, Delilah got up. She moved with a quiet precision. She made some ancient incantations, and soon Aremu's spirit was captured and put into a bottle. The next morning, Aremu left Delilah's house feeling on top of the world. But from the day he slept with Delilah, things started going badly for him. His 2 shops were boggled and his business crumbled. He could no longer pay his children's school fees, and they were chased away from school. The villagers began to whisper, "What happened to Mr. Aremu?" One evening, while Delilah was at home watching television, she received a call from her brother Adams.
Auntie Delilah, I need 3 million naira for my surgery. My leg is getting worse.
Adams pleaded. He had been involved in an accident a few months ago and his left limb was broken. Since then, he had been in and out of the hospital. As Delilah dropped the call, she knew she needed to visit her secret room once again. This time, she will need a lot of money. She walked down the hallway, her steps echoing softly as she opened the door to her secret room. The bottles were lined on the shelves, each containing a trapped soul. She removed 3 bottles from the shelf, her eyes glinting with determination. She placed them on the table and carefully opened the one containing Aremu's essence. She began chanting her incantations, and immediately Aremu's essence snoozed out of the bottle and returned to its normal form. She continued chanting her incantations and Aremu started to vomit money. But Aremu's destiny was not so bright, so he produced only a little money. Frustrated, Delilah shoved him aside. "Useless man," she muttered under her breath. She opened another bottle, releasing another man. She chanted again and the man began to vomit money, but it still wasn't enough. She opened yet another bottle, repeating the process, but the results were the same. Delilah's frustration grew as she realized she needed more. She opened more bottles, one after another, until she finally gathered the 3 million naira she needed. The floor was filled with weak, exhausted men. Satisfied, Delilah picked up a broom. She swept the now weak and trembling men into a packer, their bodies barely responsive. With a final push, she threw them into the big pots, sealing their fate. The next day, it was as if the world had come to an end in the land of Agemo. Cries and wails echoed from different homes. The air was thick with grief and confusion. Aremu and 4 other married men had died in their sleep, leaving their families in shock and sorrow. Mrs. Aremu clung to her children, tears streaming down her face. "What happened to my husband?" she cried out. Similar scenes played out in the homes of the other 4 men. Their families were left bewildered and heartbroken. The deaths were a mystery. Each of the 5 men had something in common. They had all slept with Delilah, but no one knew this dark secret. It wasn't something to be proud of, but one of shame and secrecy. Each man had kept his encounter with Delilah hidden, and now they had taken the secret to their graves. However, there was another common thread that the villagers began to notice. All 5 men had suffered severe financial losses before their deaths. Their sources of income had crumbled inexplicably, leaving them destitute and desperate. The connection was there, but it was difficult to trace or track the cause of their deaths. Emeka and Damian sat at Benga's shop that evening, their faces grim.
This can't be a coincidence.
Emeka said,
5 men all dead, all ruined financially before they died. Something is terribly wrong.
The people of Agemo were now getting increasingly worried, especially after the mysterious death of the recent 5 men. How could 5 able-bodied men just sleep and not wake up? Everyone seemed to be talking about the strange occurrences in Agemo. Rumors and speculations spread like wildfire, but no one had any concrete clues about the cause of the men's death. Meanwhile, Delilah was beginning to run low on money. The once flourishing source of her wealth was now dwindling. She knew she needed to sleep with more men with bright and great destinies, to replenish her funds. However, the string of deaths in Agemo was becoming too noticeable. The village was on edge, and if she didn't act quickly, she risked going broke, or worse still, being discovered. Determined to avoid detection and maintain her luxurious lifestyle, Delilah decided to secretly move out of Agemo. Under the cover of night, she packed her belongings, leaving no trace of her dark secrets behind. So she thought. She put her mansion up for sale and vanished into the darkness, heading towards a new village where she could start anew. Why would anyone want to put up such a luxurious mansion for sale after living in it for only 1 year? Olalekan asked aloud, his curiosity piqued. Olalekan was the young man who had supplied some of the materials used in building Delilah's house. He couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. As he drove past the grand, now empty mansion, he felt a shiver run down his spine. This is quite strange, he thought to himself. Determined to find out more, Olalekan decided to dig deeper. He made a few discreet inquiries among the villagers and discovered that many shared his suspicions. The abrupt departure of Delilah had left a cloud of mystery hanging over Agemo. Whispers of dark magic and unexplained deaths filled the air, but there was no concrete evidence. As night fell, Olalekan returned to Delilah's mansion, his determination unwavering despite the chilling encounter earlier that day. The village was quiet, with most residents tucked away in their homes. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the night itself held its breath. Olalekan approached the back gate of the mansion, carefully scaling the fence to avoid being seen and mistaken for a thief. He landed softly on the other side, taking a moment to steady his breathing. The compound appeared undisturbed, but Olalekan knew he needed to get inside the house to uncover the secrets it held. He went around the mansion, checking each door, but all were locked. Breaking a window was out of the question. It would alert the neighbors. Frustrated, Olalekan was about to leave when he remembered the emergency exit door he had supplied. The big question now is, where was this emergency exit located? As he walked around the house, his foot caught on something, causing him to trip. Regaining his balance, Olalekan looked down and saw a door, almost completely covered by flowers and dirt. His heart raced with excitement. This had to be the emergency exit. With some effort, he forcefully pried the door open and descended into the darkness. He found himself in a dimly lit basement, filled with an eerie silence that sent shivers down his spine. Determined, Olalekan moved through the basement and up the stairs, finally entering the mansion. As Olalekan explored the deserted rooms, a heavy wind began to blow outside, signaling the onset of a storm. The windows rattled and the sound of rain tapping against the glass grew louder. Suddenly, a clinking sound echoed through the mansion, barely audible over the wind. At first, Olalekan dismissed the noise, attributing it to the storm. But as the clinking continued, it grew more rhythmic, almost deliberate. Curiosity piqued, and so he decided to investigate the source of the sound. Following the clinking, Olalekan moved deeper into the mansion. The sound led him to a hidden room, the door slightly ajar. Pushing it open, he stepped inside and was met with a sight that froze him in his tracks. If you enjoyed the story and would like to know how the story progressed, please consider subscribing, not forgetting to like, share, and drop your thoughts about the story in the comment section. You can also check out those videos here. I promise you won't be disappointed. Till we meet again in my next video, remain blessed.